This is LV Home Experts, the show. This is Dan French here. I'm here with Chuck It's Crusoe. He is from Simply Vegas. What's going on today, Chuck It?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Also, we have Brett Jenny here in studio. And what's going on today, Brett?
Just enjoying my Saturday, trying to do some business.
So right now, we're going to talk today about short sales. We're going to talk about bank-owned properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Brett talk about this because Brett has a nice background in this, and also Chuckits knows a lot about this as well. We went through the process. It's not a huge part of the market at this time, but it is something we need to address because it could come up, and also it may come up here in the near future. So, Chuck, let's go ahead and talk about our topic here for the week, which is bank-owned properties and short sales.
All right, so we're going to talk about bank-owned properties and foreclosures. How does this process work if you are interested in buying a bank-owned property or a foreclosure? The question is, what is the difference between a bank-owned property and a foreclosure? Because I get calls all the time. People are misled. They're like, hey, I want to buy a foreclosure, thinking it is a bank-owned property. But the word foreclosure means that the bank has not owned the property just yet. They're going through the process of foreclosing. Once it becomes a bank-owned property, now the bank owns the property. So we're going to start off by, how does this all begin? Where does it begin, right?
Right.
So in early 2007, 2008, when the market had collapsed and we had over about 18,000 homes on the MLS, right?
That's a lot.
Yes. About 98% of them were all bank-owned properties.
Compare that to today.
And today, we only have 6,340 homes currently listed on the multiple listing service.
How many months of supplies or supply for homes is that?
1.8 months. So basically, you have about almost 2 months. After that, there is nothing out there.
Now, obviously, properties will open up. You think that going into these new the summer months, people are going to start to want to move.
Correct.
And so I think this is going to be something that we need to really talk about here.
Yeah.
Brett, let's talk to you. So you've been in this, how long you been in real estate?
Total of 15 years.
And give us a background about how you kind of came into the business, a little bit about you, so some of the audience knows who you are.
So I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin area. So I
Okay.
did real estate back in Madison, Wisconsin for about 4 years. And I moved out here in January of 2009.
Wow, that's a long time
Right
ago.
in ground zero of it all. So literally. So I would put it this way. What kind of market did we have then? The first 2 years, from 2009 to 2011, and I kid you not, I showed homes 7 days a week. And the amount of homes that I showed where there was actually somebody living in there that wasn't vacant was zero.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Every day, 7 days a week for 2 years were vacant properties. That's how bad it was.
And so the process of getting into what a short sale was, explain what a short sale is to the audience.
A short sale is you're basically shorting the mortgage.
Right.
People think a lot of it has to do with, it's a really quick period of time that they want to close. It's actually the exact opposite. It takes a lot longer, or it used to. It depends on the bank and the lender.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you're shorting the mortgage. So what you're basically, the difference between a bank-owned property, a foreclosure, and a short sale is you're basically going back to the lender and you're asking them to take less on the loan than what's owed on it.
Correct.
So say your loan is $250,000, the market value of the house or whatever you want to short it for is say $175,000. You're asking them to let it go for $175,000.
So why would the bank do that versus foreclosing on the home and it becomes an REO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Real estate owned, taking the property back and just selling on their own versus just doing a foreclosure? How does that benefit the bank?
Well, first of all, a lot of them are insured, so
Yes.
they're getting their money anyways.
Yeah.
Second of all, the foreclosure process can be very costly for the bank, tens of thousands of dollars a lot of times.
So
Wow.
it'd be in their best interest to go ahead and do a short sale because they're going to save more money.
Just
so basically,
number-wise.
what happens is they have an asset manager. So the asset manager, based upon the region or the location, they'll take a look at their full portfolio with that service or with that bank to see if it makes sense. And 9 times out of 10, it just makes sense to do a short sale versus foreclosing on the home and taking the property back.
Right. So that's the short sale process part, right? What is the difference between that and, let's say, a bank-owned property?
Bank-owned property. Bank-owned property, the bank has already taken the property back.
Okay.
So there is no, I want to go back to the bank and ask them to forgive the difference.
It's already taken.
And they have a legal right to come after you.
Let's talk about how this process works. So what it is an owner of a property is a mortgager. The bank is a mortgagee, and there's a third party, which is the trust, and the trust holds the trustee's deed. That's the security instrument,
right?
And that's the beneficiary is the bank. So basically, it's spelled out. If you don't pay us, what happens is we end up foreclosing. Normally, after 90 days, you'll get a letter. Then another 30 days from there will be a notice of sale. Once it gets to a notice of sale, the property goes on to an auction block where anybody could bid on the home, and you would have to pay cash. Normally, the banks will have a reserve. If the investors don't meet that reserve, then what happens is the bank takes the property back, then they'll list it with an agency out here in Las Vegas. So that's just kind of the gist of things.
We talk about bank owned, and then we talked about the short sale process. Obviously, it's a lot quicker to go to the bank owned process. Is there any restrictions for the bank owned as far as if you're making an offer on a property that you know?
That's a very good question. So when it comes to a bank-owned property, it depends if it's Freddie or Fannie Mae, right? If it's going through HomePath. For the first 30 days, what happens is if you are a primary resident looking to buy your first home, within the first 30 days, you have better leverage than any other investors out there. If it's a secondary home or if somebody's buying it to invest, you would have to wait after 30 days in order to make a bid.
Yeah, and they still have this, I just had something actually come across my desk where they wanted to buy an FHA property that was bank owned. Now, it's within that 90-day rule, and that 90-day rule for FHA is still intact. So you have to look at, somebody wanted to make an offer on it. They were like, well, is it bank owned? Well, most there is some restrictions, but the big one there was the 90-day rule. So are you guys dealing with or seeing FHA, not flips, but that's what they used to call them, as flips within that process?
Well, that's a little bit different. With the flip properties, yes, you'll have to do that 90-day rule because you can't buy a home for $100,000 and 3 weeks later you're selling for $180,000 because you have an appraisal issues. That's why you have that 90-day rule. But you don't really get too many bank-owned properties out there anymore. That's just like less than 1% of bank-owned properties, and short sales is another 1%. So it's a total of 2%.
Short sales is probably even less.
Exactly. So now it just comes down to, is it really worth it to buy a bank-owned property? Well, it's really case-by-case basis. Now, with the bank-owned property, people think that you deal directly with the asset manager. That's not how the process works. There's a lot of steps involved buying a bank-owned property. What you'll notice when it comes to real estate transactions, the transaction is never the same. The fundamentals are there, but you have to go through that process and step by step, and you want to make sure that when you're buying a bank-owned property, you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's.
Absolutely.
Especially with the prelim title report, because what happens is once they foreclose on your home and take it back, now you have a chain that's broken on the title. So you need to make sure that the deed that you get is actually free and clear by the time it gets transferred on over to you.
Now, obviously, we're not in that market now.
Yes.
Now, we're talking about a past market. You do get a lot of people that say, doom and gloom, maybe a little bit, if you want to call it, where is it going to go back to that? And
I hope so.
Do you ever see us going back to a market like that in the next years?
I would say so, because the cycle goes up and down, but the problem is that it really depends on the feds. If they print more money, depends on the bond market. I don't know if it's going to be a hyperinflation or deflation. A lot of people say, hey, I'm just going to wait till the market crash, but you have to understand politically what's going to happen with the United States.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, Chuck, they don't know what, and this is nothing against anybody out there, but why don't you explain the difference between hyperinflation?
Okay, so what hyperinflation is, when you start getting shortage on supply, what happens, things cost more money.
Right.
Okay, and when you get deflation, what happens is when you have a lot of money that's being printed out there, it pushes everything down. Right. So you get more money for things or less money for things. So it just depends on the market and where the market is going. That's why when people are like, hey, I'll wait for the market crash, you just don't know where this market is going.
Right.
And if you take a look at Venezuela right now, right, just the way that economy is running, you have hyperinflation.
Yeah.
Just last year alone, I think it went up 2,000%. So basically, if you went to go buy a cup of coffee, you're not paying $1 trillion. You're going there, right, with a bunch of dollar bills, and you're basically weighing your dollars just to buy a cup of coffee.
That's crazy.
Their dollar bill has sank like 95% in value in the past 5 years.
Wow.
Just here's the thing. I had a client that was from Venezuela. He came on over and showed me like one of their bills. It's like $1 trillion bill.
What?
And I look at it, I'm like, this thing looks fake. It's like Monopoly money.
Well, it kind of is.
Yeah. Well, think about it. But he's like, hey, guess what? I'm a millionaire. Well, technically you are, but there's really no value. And that's what we call fiat money. But you know what? That's not what this topic is about. So I want to jump back on topic with foreclosures and bank-owned properties.
And welcome back. This is Dan French here. I'm here with Chuck Crusoe from Simply Vegas. This is the LV Home Experts Show. And we're also here with Brett Jenny. He's here talking about foreclosures, bankruptcies, not bankruptcies.
Short sales.
Short sales. Foreclosures, short sales, and also, bank-owned property. So let's talk a little bit about going back right into this topic. So you guys have anything else on your side of it that you want to talk about on this?
Yeah, you're probably better off just getting a bank-owned property or a traditional sale. If you are looking to get a deal, or if you are at a price point where you can't really buy a home because you're at that threshold, then you may want to consider a short sale. Right. Because a lot of people don't want to buy a short sale because of the time frame.
And we talk about if this market ever does come back for with the financing part of it, we always looked at, even when you got into a contract and you started the negotiation process, that wasn't the end of it. You had to wait somewhere upwards to 3 to 12 months before you'd get an answer where it's like, okay, it's finally a contract. So as a lender, I remember getting those and I was like, well, I might get paid. So you were like, I got to get, you had like 30 or 40 of them and you just kept putting them into escrow. But then you would wait and you wouldn't close or anything. Nothing would happen until sometimes
a year later.
And also what you can do is with a short sale, and this is what I like about short sales, is you can submit an offer, tie it up in the escrow, and you have a clause in there where if they don't get it closed within a certain period of time, you can pretty much bail out of the deal, and you would write up like 10 offers.
You would.
No, you definitely would. So, you look at some of the things that's going on in today's world. I'm really happy that obviously the market did come back, and we have all these properties. We don't have a lot of properties on the sale right now. Real quick, why do you guys think that we have somewhat of a shortage, if you want to call it, for properties right now? Is it just people are staying in their homes because the interest rates are low and there's nothing out there that they can upgrade to or downgrade?
I personally think what's happening is that people around the United States, they kind of look around and see what's going on. And we talked about this last week with demographics. You have about almost 80 million baby boomers about to retire. So these people are trying to find a better climate, better place to live, cheaper on taxes, right? Mm-hmm. Something that's new, vibrant, and this is like one of the places. So if you take a look, even though that the average household, the average price for a home is $367,000. If you take a look at California, it's still a lot cheaper to move on out here, and that's why again we see a lot of people from California moving on out here.
So, do you think, have you seen markets like this in the past where we've been shortage on these homes? Obviously, everybody's kind of going to new homes, but how long did it, do you see a recovery, or not a recovery, but do you see something happening where we get more properties on the market in the next few months? Because this is a normal thing that happens most of the, we go through this process pretty much, every year, or how does it work for you guys?
Now is that, like I said, we have about 6,000 homes currently on the market at this time, with 1.8 month supply. The way that things are going right now, what you're going to start to see is the homes for resale is going to plummet, and it's all about supply and demand, economics 101. Pricing is going to increase based upon the way that this market is going. Plus, with the feds drop the rates, I mean, I'm doing deals at like 3.35%, and it is unbelievable at this time.
And Brett, like with your clientele and the people you're talking with and just trying to go through the process of getting them into houses, what are some of the challenges that you're facing, maybe with some of the clients that you're dealing with today?
Multiple offers.
Really? So you got a lot of offers going on, and it's because there's not a lot of properties in the market.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's just not a lot of properties. So especially if it's a good property, well, duh, everybody wants that property.
Yeah.
So you've got 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 offers within a day or two. And if you have a client that needs a little bit of their closing costs paid for, or whatever it is, that would be actually a good scenario to maybe switch them over to a short sale too, because no one's multiple bidding on a short sale, and you need a client who needs, say, half of their closing costs paid for. A lot of time banks will do that.
So the negotiation part of it with a short sale, and even in today's market, how important is it to have an agent where they can negotiate?
It's very important
for the short sale process.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, no matter if you're buying a short sale or a traditional sale, that agent must understand what is customary practices in today's market. They also must understand what's going on with the housing market, what's the average household income, what's the median price point for a home to be sold, where's the market at, where the challenge is. Because if you're buying a home at $367,000, that's the majority of your market, and it's a challenge. So if you are a new agent and you're going out there and asking for closing costs, you're probably not going to get your offer accepted, especially if it's in a good location and it's a move-in ready property. That's the reason why you're getting multiple
offers. You know, having a seasoned agent is either going to seal that deal or it's not going to happen.
I'll be honest with you, Chuck and I, we've done enough deals where we know a lot of the other agents.
There you go.
So, you know, hey, how you doing?
Yeah,
I have a great buyer. They've worked with you before. They know you're solid. They know you bring solid buyers. That goes a long ways a lot of times.
No, you're absolutely right. Agents want to work with other agents that can get the deal done. And the last thing that they don't want is to go under contract. The deal falls apart because you try to piece this deal together and you weren't upfront in communicating and working together. Next time when a deal comes across his desk and you're submitting an offer, you're not going to get that deal.
Yeah, it's familiarity. You know, I have clients that you look at that are, you know, California, you talk about Hawaii, we talk about East Coast.
Yeah.
And the questions I get a lot, especially on the financing side, is what is the benefits for you as me working for you or with you as a lender? And it's really because that lender that they're currently working with may not know the agent there, right, on the selling side. That selling agent might know my name and have that extra foot in the door to get in there.
You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right.
They know when you approve someone,
you're solidly approved. You know what I'm saying?
You're not wasting time.
And we've done no, don't be sorry. We're just talking over each other. It's good. Just a couple dudes talking.
That's what I'm talking. We're the beers.
So I remember we used to do deals. Oh, obviously we're still doing deals, but there's times where like, hey, I'm gonna do a deal. I already know Dan. I know he can get it done.
Right.
We just did one.
And it's agents are the ones ultimately coaching their sellers, you know, the selling agents about, hey, we want to get the best deal, we want to get this, but then they see, okay, do we want to waste our time putting that property on the market if we know that they not confident, you know, the bigger banks and some of the banks out there that they go on these online banks, sometimes, you know, they take longer and sometimes they're
And when I used to take listings as a short sale, I would always make sure that the buyer was solid. Even though that they would send over an approval letter, I would say, hey, you need to get approved with Dan, and I want to see everything what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because some lenders or sometimes clients would just walk into a bank, and those guys that are sitting behind the desk, they're just issuing out papers.
All lenders are not equal.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not just the lending side of it. Let's talk about the title part of it. You know, if you have a title company that you're working with on these short sales, or you have with the lender, and then you have a home inspector, all these people, everybody's like, well, you know, you're just referring these people because they work with you and you guys are friends. That's not always the case. The case is you want to make sure you get the deal done. It's very important. Everybody has earnest money, deposit money out there at risk. We don't want to waste anybody's time, including the seller's time.
You want to surround yourself around people who know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
None of us get paid until the end. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
We don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're absolutely right, Brett. Thinking about the whole process, you know, with the short sales and also the foreclosures and the bank-owned properties, all this process is somewhat the same for the financing world. You know, I talked about the big difference with the short sales is they just take a lot longer to close if it ever came back to that market.
Yeah.
Average turn time right now for me, a closing, just a traditional loan, is 25, 30 days.
That's
pretty
good. That's pretty good, because normally we put on the contract, I think it was 35 days for it to close.
And you know, the big thing right now is as past, you got to kind of look at what the short sale process was. It's almost like buying a new home, because you would have to wait to the end before everything got done, and then you would really start the process of the loan part of it. You know, so you know, going back to it, you know, looking at the whole big picture with everybody out there.
Or those deals, is there deals out there? Because the reason why we're bringing this up with these foreclosures and short sales, and because the question I get is it cheaper? Is it more restrictive? Do I get a better opportunity to get an offer accepted, knowing that it's a multiple offer scenario? So these are the things that people want to know. Is it really a better experience? And is there really deals out there, let's say that's foreclosure or short sale or bank owned?
As far as Fannie Mae, you got to wait the 30 days. If you're owner occupied, then because I'm sure a lot of multiple offers, if you're below 300,000, even 325, 350, you're going to have a lot of investors that are throwing their hat in the ring too. So you're beating them out there.
So is that pushing people in that market that's under 300,000 to maybe now consider is there something out there like a foreclosure or short sale?
Well, yeah, of course, but the problem is that there's just not
Yes.
too many bank-owned properties out there.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, if I take a look at the data for bank-owned properties, there's only a total of 80 properties. That's
So-
not that much.
So what
Out
are
of
these,
6,000.
yeah, where do these people go then?
That's
right?
what.
Right?
I don't know what
Where do
percentage
these-
that is.
Where does the people under the 300,000 range? Where do they go now? Is it, hey, I'm going to settle for?
You
They're
get an
gonna have
agent
to.
who knows what they're doing, and you have an agent who knows what they're doing and that works hard for you. It's real simple.
Yeah, like 250, right? I got a couple of clients right now that
Sure.
are out looking for a home at 250. And the things I get coming back is there's nothing out there, right?
Did you take them out to Detroit?
For Rob,
how many properties?
you get an acre.
I don't know that market.
Trust me.